The Smite Talk podcast is proudly sponsored by Tweaked Audio. Go to tweakedaudio.com for high-performance noise-reducing earbuds. Use the code OctanePro for 33% off and free shipping anywhere in the world. Check out tweakedaudio.com today.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 13 of Smite Talk. My name is Octane Pro, and joining me this week, I'd like to introduce AJ, also known as Squiiddish, who is a community content producer and streamer. AJ, how's it going?
Pretty good. It's pretty good right now, Octane.
Awesome. Well, special thanks for Squiiddish for joining us on today's episode of Smite Talk. As I was saying before, he kind of fits right in between. We just had Hi-Rez APC on. Next week we're going to have Ep.13 on. And right in between we have a wonderful community content producer on. Those of you guys not familiar with what Smite Talk is, what exactly is this show? This is a 30 to 45 minute show, sometimes an hour depending on, community interaction, how things go. And it's a show that pretty much allows you as the community to interact with the Smite game, kind of individualized community. So it allows you guys to call in and ask your questions, go ahead and give your opinion on different topics, just kind of have a place to vocalize, kind of your thoughts outside of the traditional like Reddit and forums and stuff like that. So if you guys want to call in, talk to Squiiddish, ask Squiiddish a question or myself, go ahead, download Raid Call, and then go ahead and also type in the code which is directly below my video, which is 7461039. That's a code you put in the top left corner, and it allows you to go ahead and get connected to the channel that we're in. So right now, for example, we have one gentleman in the lounge. He's going to hang out there until we're ready to put him on deck, and then we'll go ahead and move him from on deck directly to into the live stream when it is time to take his question. So Squiiddish, you ready for a few interview questions?
My body is ready. Let's go.
My body. Excellent. So guys, right before we go ahead and jump into just a quick interview to kind of get to know Squiiddish, for those of you guys not familiar, Squiiddish kind of has a few words that he kind of wants to give to the community. So I'll throw it over to you, sir.
Not exactly the lead I was expecting, but I know before, let me just prevent the 65,000 people who are going to jump in here to ask why I don't stream on Smite Game at the moment, because sure. I'm just taking a temporary break. Me and Gavin have talked about this. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes communication you guys don't see. Trust me. And with the giant Flame Fest thing, it's the Reddit. The best solution is just to back off it, let it die down, and I'll come back. So don't worry. This is not a permanent thing. This is just a temporary hiatus. I will be back. There will be justice. Just taking a break for now.
Excellent.
And with the moving and everything that's gone on this year anyway, this works out pretty well for me. So it's pretty good timing, honestly.
Yeah. And, we knew it was going to happen. Something that Squiiddish and I talked about before the show. We're like, all right, let's just put out the fires before they begin. Let's talk about it. And so it's the best way to do it. So, we've talked about it, done it over with. Let's go ahead and move on to some of our interview questions here. So moving on, guys, our first question for Squiiddish for this week's episode of Smite Talk is, growing up, Squiiddish, what video games did you play, and was there a particular genre that caught your eye?
Yes. What video games did I play? Yes. Pretty much all of them. I was one of those guys who grew up with, I wouldn't say my parents really played games, but they got me into games really early on, like original Nintendo, Super Nintendo type stuff. And way back in the day, way back in the dark ages, I'm sure a lot of people share this sentiment. The first game that really picked me up, the first genre that I was like, wow, this is really cool, GoldenEye. N64, GoldenEye, first-person shooters. And that hit me on first-person shooters, and that was just what I did for years. Up into original Xbox and through up to Xbox 360, I was a shooters guy.
Okay. And so was there a genre that you usually followed prior to Smite? Was it just shooters then, is what you're saying?
Prior to Smite, I did a bunch of different stuff, but mainly the kind of stuff I really like is shooters and then just like action style games. I pretty much play everything but fighting games and sports games.
Okay.
Those have just never really been my thing. Not a fan.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Okay.
Don't know why.
Yeah, I think for me, as you were talking about there growing up, it was GoldenEye without a doubt. I feel like everybody played GoldenEye. If you think of N64, it was like GoldenEye without a doubt. I mean, then Perfect Dark came along.
And Mario Party.
Yeah, Mario Party. Exactly. It was between me and my
Ruiner
friends.
of controllers and friendships everywhere.
Yes. Moving on from there, let's go ahead and jump ahead from kind of the games that you played when you started growing up to Smite. And when did you start playing Smite, and what necessarily attracted you to the game?
I started playing it when I started. The newest god was Neath, so I haven't been playing it nearly as long as a lot of the other big guys, like probably you. I know Drybear's been playing it way longer than I have. I'm relatively new to the Smite scene because that's not that long ago. I wasn't here for Release Guan. I've heard the horror stories and I've seen videos, but I was not around for any of that, or Yellow and Green Buff or Side Jungles. But I honestly, as much as everybody hates the new YouTube changes, and I hate the YouTube changes, there was one change YouTube did where it switched your homepage from showing your subscriptions to showing like recommended videos that because YouTube knows better than you do what you want to watch, obviously.
Of course.
And
of course.
For whatever reason, everything I did back then was a lot of like Assassin's Creed and stuff. And for whatever reason, Smite kept showing up in my recommended videos. And I think it was a lot of Steve Schwant that was showing up. And I went and watched a couple. And I was like, this game actually looks pretty cool. And I watched videos of it for like 3 or 4 months before I ever actually downloaded the game. But that's how I found it.
So now, I don't know. Gamers play differently. Some people, like for example myself, I play one game. And usually one game only, and every once in a while I might tap into a few other games, whereas there's a lot of other gamers who play a multitude of different games at once. Which one are you?
I would like to say I play a variety of different games. I do sometimes, but I'm going more and more towards the Smite recently. But I play a lot of stuff. I'm playing on multiple systems even. I have an Xbox One I play on too. I'm not even just PC. So I guess I play everything.
Okay, good to know. So you're a streamer and content producer. What and when, what pulled you into that, and when did you start creating that content? Because as you talked about, you had a YouTube page and you were creating content before Smite. So kind of what were you doing before Smite from a content perspective, and what kind of pulled you into streaming as well?
Well, way back in the day, way back in the dark ages, I started content creating with Assassin's Creed Brotherhood a long time ago. Whenever that came out, that was like almost 4 years ago now. It's a relatively old game. Just because it was something that was really new, and it was something I was really excited for, and it was the first time I had an opportunity. Because I'd been watching YouTube videos of games and stuff sometimes, just on and off occasionally, and I was like, that looks really cool. I kind of want to do that. That would be entertaining. And Brotherhood, I played it for a little while and felt like, contrary to most games that I'm honestly not very good at, I was really good at Brotherhood. So I was like, I'm going to make some YouTube videos. So I got a freaking Dazzle. Don't ever get a Dazzle. I got a Dazzle, like the worst possible video capture thing you could ever have, and just started posting Brotherhood videos. And I'm honestly not positive how I switched over to streaming. I'm not sure where that transition happened, but it was a while ago. I'm not sure what got me into streaming from videos.
And so do you remember that when you swapped over from Smite, your YouTube kind of subscribers increased quite significantly, or did you already have a lot before you swapped over, or how did that work from a YouTube perspective?
I grew a lot with Smite when I swapped over. I mean, I had a decent following before that. I was probably around half of the subs I'm at right now, so like 15K or so. It wasn't small. It was a decently sized little side content channel before Smite. But I hit Smite, and just like it's half of my subscriber base has been from now when I started Smite versus when I started Smite to 4 years ago. So it's definitely been a big source of growth.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me. We had Drybear on Smite Talk some time ago, and he was very similar. Like, he was on YouTube. He had a nice chunk of followers, and so when he made the move over to Smite, and then even made the move from YouTube to Twitch, he brought a lot of that audience with him. So people that were subscribers to his YouTube had the option to go, could go ahead and see kind of this new game Smite, and then he brought a lot of that audience with him, so he instantly had a lot of viewers on Twitch because of that. So it sounds like you're very, very similar in the same way. You started out with YouTube, made the swap over to Smite, increased your viewer base quite significantly, and then also transitioned that into Twitch, which is pretty exciting, and a different approach compared to some people going the other way, which is Twitch first and then YouTube second. Moving on from there, what do you feel sets your content apart from the saturated Smite content market right now?
I feel like I'm one of the few people who doesn't post Smite videos that are just like turbo tryhard ranked gameplay. Like, it seems like, I mean, Smite's a very competitive game. Obviously, the esports scene for Smite is growing enormously with Cloud9 and TSM having teams now. You've seen the streams this weekend even. The production value has skyrocketed. It's a very competitive game, so it makes sense that the majority of the content is competitive. But my content's not competitive at all. My content is 0% competitive. I don't post, this is how you do this, go be amazing videos. I just post shenanigans games. Like, I'm not saying people aren't funny in their videos, they are, but that's not the primary focus. Most streamers, like, I mean, Drybear's YouTube content, the focus is top tier ranked gameplay, and also Drybear being funny. Mine is being funny, and also I guess I'm killing people sometimes. Okay.
No, I mean that's a very big significance. I mean, each YouTube channel kind of has its specialty with Smite. Some is gameplay, some is as you talked about, some being a little more funnier, more in contact with kind of the casual community, whereas other YouTube channels out there is much more geared towards the competitive scene. So makes perfect sense. Before we go ahead and move on with our questions, guys, I want to remind you we're starting to have some people join the raid call. If you guys have a question for Squiiddish regarding streaming, YouTube, Smite, anything really, please go ahead and join the raid call channel, and you can ask that to him here in a few minutes. The number is directly below my video, so feel free, go ahead, join raid call, put in that number, join the channel, you'll be put in the lounge, and then we'll pull you in here in a few minutes. Moving on from our questions here, and guys, side note, all these questions are actually coming from the community. I posted on Reddit this past week. As much as we all love Reddit, we did get some decent questions, and so all these questions this week are coming from the Reddit community. What are 3 tips that you can give to someone just starting out with streaming to help them increase their daily viewer base?
Honestly, that's the hard part. Getting started is the hardest part of streaming, because you hit a point where you're at a critical mass where you start showing up on Twitch front page, or people look at Smite, you're going to be in the top 3 channels, and that's just going to get you viewers because you have viewers. But getting started, the biggest thing is you need other sources of exposure. I mean, Twitch is not going to give you exposure until you're already big. I'm not positive how other streaming platforms work. Twitch is not what I'm really familiar with. But stuff like the Reddit. That was how I got started with Assassin's Creed. I didn't get popular because I was big on YouTube. I posted my videos to the forum. I mean, Assassin's Creed had an official forum, so that was a lot easier. But Assassin's Creed had a big thing on the forum with community content, and I posted into that, and that really helped me grow. The Reddit is an alright place to try and help grow. It's harder with Smite, because Smite doesn't have, as far as I know, any really good content hub. Because the Reddit generally frowns upon people putting their videos and streams in there. But, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. You can put it in there. It's a shot. Even if it gets downvoted to oblivion, you're still going to show up in the new page for a while to get you something. You can reach out on Twitter, try and find people, just other sources than Twitch. Because Twitch won't help until you're already big. Second thing, just the other 2 are very minor compared to that, because exposure is seriously the hardest part. Just do whatever you have fun with playing Smite. Don't try too hard to be what you've seen on streams. Because if you're trying to, I don't know, hypothetically be Drybear, because Drybear's streams are amazing, and you're like, I want to be exactly like Drybear. You're just going to try and be a lesser Drybear, and people are going to watch Drybear instead of you. You don't want to be Drybear, you want to be you. That's how you get viewers. And that kind of rolled into the third thing I was going to say, which is have fun with it, I guess, is also part of that. But just do your own thing, and try and find some other avenue to help get people to your stream. It's not just going to grow on its own. It's not going to magically happen unless you get incredibly lucky.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point. I mean, as you talked about there, even you and Drybears were just kind of talking about, as both of you guys are content producers, a lot of your crowd has come over from YouTube to Twitch, which is making it a little bit easier compared to just starting out on Twitch. And I think it's very common, you have people that go ahead and start out and they have, 1 or 2 viewers, and they get frustrated about it because, as you talked about, they don't have the exposure. They're not, for example, you had your YouTube exposure, which came over to Twitch. Well, find other outlets. Reddit might not always be the best place because, as you exactly talked about, like, you post up a video of something and it gets downvoted. Why? Because it's Reddit, and people are very, very rude on Reddit because of the way that it's structured. People aren't happy to see content.
It's pretty accurate.
That's exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, hey, somebody created content in the community. Oh, downvote it. Why? Well, I don't know. I
need to upvote these threads complaining about everything. Downvote the content.
Well, and that's like the thing. Like, the funny thing is, whenever somebody, and it's a funny argument. I see it on YouTube when I put out my own stuff too. And someone makes like a comment, I'm like, and I always make a comment back, and I'm like, I'm sorry to hear you don't like my content. Please link me your content so I can check it out. You never hear anything back because they don't do anything. They don't create anything. They just sit there and they just downvote it and they don't care. So, anyways, moving past Reddit, moving on from there to our so as Squiiddish had talked about, exposure, focus, and just having fun with it and doing your own thing, I think are very, very important. Next question.
It really is.
Yeah. If you were to have developmental control of the game to make a single change, may it be a god, an item, a map, a mode, client change, whatever, what would you change right off the bat? Just what you think about.
Remove teleport to towers. Done. Next question. Seriously, I know they're nerfing it, in all seriousness. It's been nerfed. The cooldown's been increased. They're aware that teleport to towers is a massive problem. But that single active is 90% of the reason 1/5 of the roles on any given team is just mind-numbingly boring. That's solo lane, because nothing you do in solo lane matters. It's not as bad now as when it was literally 2 waves was the cooldown, but it's still, like, nothing you do in solo lane matters. Like, outplaying or even killing your opponent hardly matters, because they're going to teleport right back in. And, I mean, there's nothing lost there. It's almost... It just evolves the jumping parties and wave clearing, because why bother trying when you just get a teleport back?
Sure. No, I mean, a lot of people would argue that, Cripple at first was like a huge game-changing moment, when Cripple was introduced into the game. Teleport, without a doubt, has definitely changed the game. Between there, we had Blink, and Blink was a big one. I mean, you could give gods the ability to go from point A to point B very quickly to disengage as needed. It was a huge, moment for a lot of gods, for tanks re-engaging, and also for mages to disengage when they were put under. Well, teleport is now that type of item, where teleport is an item that is game changing. It allows you to play solo lane a little differently, even mid lane too. So I can agree. The game has changed significantly since adding teleport, and it sounds like from you'd rather jump back to that. Next question. Sure, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just saying, I don't really think there's a way to fit teleport to towers in with how Smite works to make it not just make a lane pointless. I mean, even mid lane sometimes gets trivialized by teleport to towers. It's just, it doesn't really fit in with Smite. Sure.
No, I can agree. Moving on to our next question here, guys. We have the last few questions, then we'll move on to your questions. So if you guys would like to, please go ahead and join Raid Call. The number is directly below my video. We have 2 people hanging out in Raid Call right now. We can go ahead and add additional people, and we'll go from there. So our next question is, YouTube kind of sucks with their automatic filter system. What do you think it would take for a new video host to catch on? Those of you guys not familiar, YouTube put in place this kind of automatic filter system over the last few weeks, which has gone ahead and caused a lot of videos to just be completely taken offline. I mean, there were even some Smite game videos that were taken down because they thought that the Smite game channel didn't have the ability to put it up. And it was like, really? So I guess I'll throw it over to you as a YouTube content creator. How's that affected you? And what do you feel, do you feel that there's going to be something to replace YouTube, or you think YouTube is too has saturated the industry too much?
Well, that's something, I mean, seeing as I make my living off of YouTube and Twitch, that's something I've been looking at a lot recently. YouTube at the moment really looks, smash them keys, really looks like a sinking ship, and that worries me because I don't want it to be. But I don't think it's going to go down anytime soon, but I think something major is going to happen with YouTube. Just because the way they have their copyright system right now, the problem isn't that they have a copyright system. Obviously, that's important. That's something they need to be a video hosting network. Sure. The problem is that they're like the shoot first, ask questions later approach. It's like the things that auto detects get ridiculous. Like, it doesn't, a bot doesn't understand fair use. It doesn't understand copyright law. It doesn't understand licensing. All it knows is, I heard 2 seconds of something that sounds like something I know. Ban this video. I mean, but the actual question for another network to come up and be like a rival to YouTube, to be another video hosting site that will work, they got to find their own way to deal with the copyright issue. Because the reason that's so hard to do, the reason while YouTube's floundering, nobody's just stepped up and said, we are a gaming video channel, come to us, is because it's not that simple. I mean, there really is. The copyright mess is exactly that. It's a giant mess. And they would need a better solution than what YouTube has. And they would need to wade through a lot of legal nonsense to even get to where they can post game footage and not have copyright issues. It's something that just needs more direct laws, I think, because everyone's trying to warp movie and like book copyright infrastructure into this new media form, this YouTube type content that there's not really laws for right now, and they're trying to warp other laws to make them work, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame because it's definitely affecting the community without a doubt, especially the Smite community. So hopefully that gets addressed, especially for people like you that do make a living off of YouTube and other YouTube content producers within the scene. Moving on, we have 2 more questions. Once again, guys, if you are not able to go ahead and connect via raid call, I did post in chat. You can go ahead and ask your questions to Squiiddish at ask.fm/OctanePro. And we'll take a few of those here as we move on. Next question, what do you believe the Smite esports tournament scene can learn from industry giants like Riot's League of Legends and Valve's Dota 2?
I'll take things me and Drybear talk about a lot for 500. Well, we talk about this all the time. Like, when we're just hanging out on Skype or whatever. And one of the major things is exactly what they started doing this weekend. Like, realistically, if Smite wants to be taken seriously, and I understand before we take any steps forward, the fact that this is coming from a man who is actively wearing a bright red squid hat on his head is ironic. But it really needs to be more professional. It really does. I mean, the tournament scene needs to be separate from the shenanigans, the normal day in, day out business of Smite game. It needs to be streamlined, professional. I mean, their new production team, and I mean, they're all suited up and presentable on stream now. That's a big step forward. That's a big step forward for making. It needs to be something that people take seriously. Because I mean, if you look at League of Legends or Dota, and their tournament scenes, and I watch tournaments for pretty much all MOBAs, just if for no other reason than to gain information, and because I also like League. They're all like that. They're all, the casters are wearing suits. It's all super professional. It's really high production value. It's streamlined. And it's something they're taking seriously. It's not like it's a joke. Like, I'm not saying the tournament scene's been a joke, but it just hasn't been super serious. I mean, I don't wear this hat when I'm casting, obviously. I never have. Well, I did, I think, the first time I ever cast the tournament. But it's just that kind of stuff. That's where it needs to go. That's where it's going. They're doing a great job with that already.
Sure. And some people may argue, like, oh, like, don't copy League of Legends or don't copy Dota. And those of you guys have to remember, like, League of Legends of Dota has been in the scene for quite some time. There are also other MOBAs. And there's nothing wrong with looking at other games and going ahead and taking a utility or function or something they do and going ahead and reintroducing it into your own game and into the scene as well. For example, like Dota 2, into their giant tournament they had quite a few months ago, they went ahead and allowed you to buy some type of in-game item, and a percentage of that went to the prize pool to increase the prize pool. That's what we're going to start to see here with Smite. As they talked about with the 100K tournament, one of the skins, they are going to be releasing will help add to the prize pool, so that 100K can fluctuate and can increase to help it out. So really cool idea there. There's a lot of other really cool ideas that these guys do, League of Legends and also Dota 2, that I think we can learn from a community. We shouldn't be so stubborn to shut them out, because if they're so successful, why don't we take some notes from them? Exactly. Some very good things there. I mean, there are some things that has been done that, from a technical standpoint, can't be done within Smite, just because of the way the game was designed versus their game and stuff like that. What I'm talking about is like spectator mode and how they did this huge thing with Dota 2 and stuff like that with spectator and all this type of stuff. But hopefully we'll get there at some point with Smite.
That's the big inherent issue. That is the giant hurdle with third-person MOBA, is how do you present it spectator-wise to a crowd. And I mean, anyone who's been watching the tournament scene has seen that over the last couple months, I mean, spectator changes almost weekly. It's almost a weekly basis. Spectator mode gets some sort of complete overhaul or new features or new functionality, and they're getting really close. They're at a point now where it's acceptable. I still think it could be better. There's still things that could be done to be improved. But with the chopping, the maximum height on stuff, and the new assisted camera mode, they're getting really close to something that is watchable for people that do not understand Smite, which is, at the end of the day, what the crowd you really need to try and reel in. Because if someone sees Smite on the front page with his 8K viewers during the EU tournament, or some Cloud9 fan sees their team tweet, they're like, oh, what's this? Clicks in, has no idea what's going on. They're just going to leave.
Yeah, without a doubt. You were talking about the suits and stuff like that earlier. It's kind of funny that you say that, because when I first came into the scene, I started to do a little bit of casting as... I would cast from VODs at that time. And this was just like spectator... It wasn't even out prior to that, and then I just started to get it. When Spectator first came out, I started to do it from VODs because I didn't have Spectator mode then. And I wore a suit jacket. And believe it or not, I'm going to call out Hi-Rez Kelly here. Hi-Rez Kelly kind of called it out, I forget when, and she was like, oh, you know, wearing a suit jacket. But what I did was I wore a suit jacket and a t-shirt underneath of it, which is very, very common.
Oh, that's pro.
Yeah, exactly. Which is very, very common, though, if you look at like StarCraft 2 and other games like that.
Right.
Was very common to see like a gamer shirt underneath of a suit jacket. And I remember, you know, I did it for a while, and then Hi-Rez Kelly said something about it, and after that I was like, well, screw the jacket. I'm not wearing that anymore. But then, you know, we started to see like a Gamescom, stuff like that. Like Hi-Rez Bart and Lionheart were wearing them, and PAX and stuff like that. So as you kind of talk about the professionals, you know, we're taking ideas from the other esports scene and kind of molding them into ours, because we want to introduce the game as a professional esport. And hopefully we get there sooner than later. Finally, go ahead.
Oh, we're a lot closer. This last weekend has been a fantastic improvement. It really has.
Yeah. Oh, the production, as you talked about, production quality has been amazing. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people have been working on that, and the production quality is definitely increased. We saw some green screens being introduced behind the casters as well this past week, and just kind of the overlays and the between the game look and stuff like that. What I'm eager to do and see is, and I don't know if you could do this with everyone being online, but a lot of the other esports will do between games. They have an analyst, so you like throw it over to an analyst. They're in front of like a smart board or something like that, and they just kind of break down like builds or plays and stuff like that, or team fights and stuff like that. I think that'd be a great filler between the games.
That would be, like you said, it's going to be tough with the online, but that would be a really awesome thing to add in. Just, I mean, that's really what they've been focusing on recently, in addition to just the more production value, is that it's a previously on Smite game. Casting has pretty much been a two-man show. Like the two casters, and then I guess the admin dealing with the actual behind-the-scenes tournament stuff. So I guess a three-man show. It's pretty much it. Like, one of the casters was actively the streamer and managing all the scene changes and everything, and the other caster was just casting, and the admin managing the tournament. And those three people were literally like 100% of the production of the tournament. And now, I mean, they've got a whole production team running the stream behind the scenes. They've got all that. The casters are just there to cast. I mean, they're really doing that. They're working on bringing in more people, more specific roles. It's fantastic. But yeah, an analyst would be a really cool addition. I just don't know how we do it with this whole online thing. It'd be a little tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could introduce it at the 100K tournament that we do have in March. But, you know, you also have to keep in mind, too, like, as the game's going on, you have someone, like, cutting, like, video to be used during that, you know, someone analyzing it and stuff like that. So it is pretty crazy how they do that. I do know they've started to introduce observers. Like, this past week, the past 2 weeks, they've had dedicated observers. So you not only have, you know, your two streamers in there, but you also have the observer in the game as well. So you start to see that too. So, you know, we're starting to see the production quality starting to get, you know, more hefty, which has been really, really cool. Last question
It's
we have,
awesome.
which I don't know. We got so many questions on this, so I thought I'd put it out there. Squiiddish, what does a perfect Sunday look like for you?
Ah, why? Why would you take that as a question? Oh, Sunday where somebody doesn't get asked that question. It's my perfect
right.
Sunday. That's all I want. Just want a day
right.
to go by where somebody doesn't get blindsided with that question. I can't believe you guys got caught off guard with that. I have failed.
That's right. That's right. It's funny because there were so many questions, like even the Ask.fm channel that we set up for taking questions, people were asking that. So it's kind of funny to get that. I don't expect an answer specifically from there. So let's go ahead. We're going to take our first caller here, which is Lucent Horse, in just a second. Keep in mind, guys, you can go ahead and call in, and you can call in via raid call, or you can go ahead and ask a question. You can ask the question. I'll put it in chat. It's just www.ask.fm/OctanePro. Ask the question directly towards Squiiddish or myself. And we will get it over there. If you guys want to call in and chat with him one-on-one, please, feel free to. You can call in. The raid call information is directly below my video up on the screen right now. That would be awesome. So let's go ahead and take Lucent Horse in here. And there it is. Lucent Horse, welcome to Smite Talk. What do you want to talk about today, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
Pretty good yourself?
I'm doing well. There's a few things I'd like to talk about this week, and I kind of want to start off by saying this patch kind of took a little bit of the wind out of my sails, because I was going to ask about, what do we think about, modifying domination, so that people play it more. Well, they just took it out.
Mm-hmm.
So there goes that one. And I was going to say, yeah, what?
Really, that's how we modify domination. You just get rid of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, basically, yeah. And I was gonna say, the Minotaur, he's been in a while. There's no lore behind him, and what you think about modifying, and of course take him out. Okay, well, there goes two questions. But yeah, I kind of want to talk about something that you, Octane, bring up a lot, and
Sure.
it's the substitution system.
Yep.
Because I do find it to be interesting. I don't know. It's one of those things that I don't really quite grasp, I guess, fully.
Yeah.
But I just kind of want to talk about. This is one of your ideas, and it's Smite Talk, and we should be talking about some ideas. And you've gone over briefly. Smite. Smite game on your own personal stream, and I kind of want to know a little more in depth of if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So I'll just kind of reiterate my thought on the substitution feature, and then kind of ask Squiiddish, what his thoughts are, if there's a better way around it. So my thoughts are with substitution is a lot of the times, a queue will pop, and you'll be in the middle of selecting your gods, and someone never selects their god, and they kind of AFK or whatever. My thought is that when you join the queue, you join into the queue, but if you don't get selected into a game or whatnot, you're kind of put on the standby real quick, and you'll kind of fill in for that person during the god selection screen. So all of a sudden, that person would be swapped out with another person. They'll have another 30 seconds to pick, and off they go. Another thought with substitution as well is if you want to get, instead of waiting around for the queues, where sometimes you got to wait your 4-minute queue and it takes forever, there should be an option to substitute queue. So you go ahead and join it, and if someone leaves the game, you go ahead and fill in for them. You get adjusted to the average of the players on your team for level and the average for the gold, and then you get put into the game to take their place so that we no longer see these 4-on-5 type of situations. So that's just kind of my thought behind it. I don't know the technicalities behind it, but I thought it'd be a really good idea. Let me ask Squiiddish, do you like the idea of substitutions? Do you not like it? Is there a better way that you would see implementing it? So what are your thoughts?
I like the idea of the in-lobby substitutions. That's a really cool concept. Like if somebody just doesn't pick a god and drops, you pull in somebody else so you don't have to sit through the whole queue again.
Sure.
I can see that working. The problem is the giant Pandora's box you open with substituting out a person mid-game. Because there's a lot that comes out of that. Like with just to run, I mean, I know there's a lot of modifications and thought you'd put into this, but just to run up the base overview you just gave me. Say, here's the situation, you're playing mid, you're playing, I don't know, Hebo, whatever, against an Alquang, and you and your jungler just totally shut this guy down. Like, you just destroy him. It's not that he's not trying. You just put a lot of work in, you really outplay this guy, he's totally shut down, and the rest of his team is level 14, 15, and this dude's 11 with, like, no gold. And then he quits, and someone gets put in and gets put into the average of this team's level in gold. So that Ao Kuang just got handed, like, all of your outplay early game goes out the window because this guy just got handed 3.5 levels and basically all the gold difference you shut him down for. That could go the other way around. I mean, you could have someone who's getting way ahead and way fed and carrying the team, and he just DCs his internet goes out or something, and someone comes in to fill him, he just gets knocked back 3 levels, and then your team's like, well, we gave that guy all our XP. So, I mean, it's really hard to have a system to substitute someone in-game that's not going to affect the outcome of the game without just literally dropping another player on that same character without changing anything. Just, like, dropping them on the way behind Ao Kuang.
Yep. No, I think it's a very good point. I mean, it's definitely something that I think Hi-Rez has looked at for a while now. Most likely we'll see some type of fill-in because, I mean, it is a problem. We see it all the time where, you know, someone just gets fed up and they just leave the game. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, what, you know, why, you know, and then all of a sudden the whole team fails because of that one person. And so hopefully we'll see some more of that. Lucent Horse, any other questions you have for us today?
This next one's not quite so short, I guess would be the word for it. But, you know, with Smite coming out in 3 months, like I said, you know, coming out of beta being an official game, there's still probably a lot of changes that need to be done. At least that's my point of view. Nothing really in particular in my mind, I guess, but lots of little tweaks. And I was just kind of thinking, like, what kind of changes do you guys think would be good before the game, you know, comes out? Like nerfs, buffs, things you'd put in, things you take out, just slight modifications, that sort of stuff.
Sure. I'll throw it over to Squiiddish first, and I'll give my answer after that.
I think really the game's in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, there's always going to be gods that are better or worse than others. There's always going to be. I mean, even look at League. How long's League been going, and there's still champions who are total, complete garbage, and champions that are Riven. So, I mean, there's always going to be balance discrepancies. There's nothing you can do about that. So they're in a pretty good spot with that right now. There's no gods that are just totally and completely worthless. There's gods that are definitely lower tier. But everyone has their role and everyone has their place. The thing I think really needs to be worked on is a lot of Hi-Rez's presentation to the community, like their interactions with the community. One thing I've seen a lot come through, it's been suggested that would be a great idea. If you look at Hi-Rez patch time, and they've started doing this a little bit. They have their stream, they release their patch notes, and they go through everything, and occasionally maybe Ares or Bart will chime in with what they're thinking, why they did something, or what this is going to mean. And if you look at, I hate to compare this to League of Legends on the Smite stream, but League of Legends patch notes, every single change, every minor balance change they do has like a paragraph of why they're doing it, exactly why this change happened, what they're trying to buff or nerf, what they're trying to rebalance, how they're trying to bring this champ in line. And I mean, that's something that would really, just more transparency like that, especially on the balance side of things, is something players really like.
No, I think that's a really, really good point. Just, you know, asking for more detail for the patch. Understandable. You know, we want to know what Hi-Rez is thinking and why they're thinking it. So I think that's a very good point. Even if it's just added to the patch notes and not necessarily talked about on stream because it could delay the stream significantly. But just kind of, even if it's like 1 or 2 sentences, you know, we did this because of X, Y, and Z. I can definitely understand that. I think if you know, you kind of asked about, you know, things that we would like to see changed or whatnot. I will have to say, and I know Hi-Rez is working on it. I'm not trying to give any slack, but it's definitely the server architecture. We're 3 months out from launch. The game has been out in beta for well over a year, and we're now starting to see some server issues. If that's because of the player base is growing significantly, awesome. But I want to see it from Hi-Rez. I want to see them say, hey, you know, we're having server issues because we have so many new players. And that's like something to celebrate and completely understandable. But, you know, I think the server architecture needs a look over here before we go ahead and launch the game within the next 3 months. It's been quite a problem. And, you know, it's easy to say it and, you know, it's easy to flame about it. Coming from an IT perspective, I understand it. Most likely it has to do with the virtual environment and turning up additional virtual servers in order to support the demand with type of a round-robin setup. I understand that. But I just want to see it kind of smoothed out a little bit better as we are 3 months out. It's kind of scary because if the game launches and all of a sudden it flops, you're going to see a lot of people very angry, and I don't want to see people kind of just go away because they're frustrated with it. So that is kind of my answer to that. Lucent Horse, any other questions you have for us today?
Kind of. This is
Okay.
more of just like kind of like a personal interest.
Sure.
I not very big into like Loki or Fenrir. A little bit of Hell, but do you think we'd ever see Loki's third child in the game? Furthermore, do you think we'd really see much more branching out of just family trees, I guess, for the different gods?
Are we talking about the horse? Because the only other child I know of Loki's is the horse.
He has isn't it the daughter that's the snake, the world snake or whatever?
I'm not super big on Norse mythology, so I don't know how to take the word for it. But
I know we got like a god, god expert over here.
As more gods are getting added in and stuff, I mean, there's always more room to add in. And since, I mean, the two, I don't want to say primary as in they are more important than the rest of them, but the two primary pantheons with like the biggest bucket of gods and lore to pull from are the Greek and Norse. So I'm sure there's going to be more of those coming in, whether it's Loki's child eventually showing up or whoever. It's always definitely possible. I'd say high probability.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we have plenty of time, as Hi-Rez had said. There's going to be, the process of releasing gods may slow down a tiny bit, but it's not going to stop once the game launches. So that gives them plenty of opportunity there. Well, Losing Horse, we're going to go ahead and take some more callers. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope you call in on future episodes.
Yeah, will do. And as always, thank you for having me.
No problem.
And have a great night.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and bring on Legolas King here in a second. We're going to go ahead and take a question from the Ask.fm in between here. Question is, why do you wear the hat?
Why don't I wear the hat? True answer. So the story of this hat is way less exciting than you think it is. I obviously am Squiiddish. I have squid-themed avatars and everything. And I'm sitting here one day making a video for the YouTubes, minding my own business. My dad calls me, and he's like, hey, come up to our place. I have a present for you, but you can only get it if you come up right now. I was like, is this food? Because that was the only thing I could think of that would have like an expiration date. I was like, food! Sure. So I get in my car, expecting glorious food bounty. Drive up to my parents' house because they live on the other side of town. And the present is this squid hat. And at first I was like, that seems kind of dumb. Like, I see where you're coming from, but that seems kind of dumb. But then I decided to humor him, and I put it on for a stream. And I'm pretty sure at this point my stream would throw a full-scale riot if I streamed without it. So that's pretty much where we're at.
Okay, good to know. Let's go ahead and bring on Legolas King. And Legolas King, you are on Smite Talk. How's it going, sir?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well.
Excellent. What questions do you have for us today?
Well, first of all, Squiiddish, do you think they'll ever put in an in-game voice communication with Smite?
I do not know. I see the arguments for that. I think it'd be cool, but considering how much the general Smite community already complains about BM, I feel like that's a giant BMing death tool. Granted, there's a mute button, but I think the in-game VGS is a really cool and really unique system that's better to focus on than putting in an actual in-game voice comm.
Okay, cool. And what other ideas for gods do you guys have?
I'll throw it over to Squiiddish first. What ideas do you have for any other god?
Well, the only real full-fleshed idea I've had for like a god and kit and everything, I posted to the Reddit once upon a time for Eris, which was like a backwards support god. Because all the current support gods, they heal and buff, and that's how they support. Eris was going to straight up support by debuffing and just bringing down the enemy team. So like the opposite end of a support. Like she wouldn't do a lot of direct damage or be a bursty mage or anything, but everything she would do would just totally screw up the enemy's plans, up to and including an ultimate that made enemy gods switch positions. So just a totally disruptive debuffing support rather than a buffing and healing support.
Sure.
You got any ideas, Octane?
I feel like I'm asked that. I mean, it's always nice to get the guest perspective on this because I'm asked this like every week. I think for me, a lot of people in chat had even said like Medusa, and I think there'd be a lot of cool mechanics that could be added in with Medusa, and just the ability to kind of freeze people and stuff like that. I think it'd be kind of interesting, to be honest with you. So that's kind of my pick for right now. I kind of get asked every week. but I always like hearing what the guest has to say as to their ideas. So what other questions do you have, sir?
As far as balance right now, who do you guys think is way too overpowered?
Zeus! Balanced of gods! No, seriously though. I know at least Hi-Rez acknowledges there's a problem because they nerfed him last patch. But I still... They did a good thing. Taking the slow off of his shield is huge, but he's still a little ridiculous. But the problem is he's one of those gods that's in a position where I don't know what you could do to him that wouldn't make him garbage tier. Like, just... by merit of how Zeus's kit works, he kind of has to be turbo burst, or he's worthless. That's like all he does. So I don't know what you could really do to him without turning him into trash.
Sure. If you were to ask me a few weeks ago, I definitely would have said Vulcan, just with the re-release of him and the rework that we did see go on. More recently, I could definitely aim towards Zeus. I think Zeus is a very strong god right now. Once you get Fatalis on Zeus as well, it's just deadly because of someone being able to chase you and add stacks on top of you, and regardless of how fast you run, it doesn't, unless you have sprint, running away, they can still layer the stacks on top of you and kill you, compared to on other guys, running away, sometimes you could juke or get around, stuff like that. Zeus is just really, really good. I like the change that they did make to Zeus regarding the Aegis shield. I think it was definitely necessary to help with that. But we'll kind of have to see the direction they go with Zeus. But I do agree with Squiiddish as to who I think is the strongest god right now. Any other questions you do have, sir?
Also, based off that, you really need to buff right now?
Everyone needs just a straight buff, not like a redesign or just a straight up buff. That's a tough one. I would say Hades. I mean, we were talking about this in chat a little bit. Hades, pretty sure Hades is, I would say, the worst god in the game right now. Because he does stuff, sometimes kind of, but his mechanics are really, really clunky. And the biggest problem is if you build him tanky, he is pretty much nothing but a walking ultimate. Because he has the little, tiny fear cone, and that's it for CC, and a little slow. And so he's just a walking ult. And if you build a mage, yeah, he could do some alright damage, but he ults and just gets blown up instantly. So I'm not sure how to balance in there. Well, they need to pick a direction for Hades to go, like they did with Vulcan. Either say he's a Guardian and give him more Guardian-like mechanics and make him, do something worth time being a tank, or say he's a mage like they did with Vulcan and bounce him around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you kind of made a good point there. You say he's like a walking ultimate, and that kind of led me towards the god. I actually have two gods that I think about right now, which could use some adjustments. One would be Poseidon, and one would be Han Bats. I just feel like their whole mechanic is based off their ultimate. Poseidon with Release the Kraken, and Han Bats with his ultimate fear ability, you could say. And I just feel like, Han Bats is a little bit weaker. Now, this is just my opinion, guys. I'm not in the competitive community at all. Just a casual member of the community member. But Han Bats definitely, I feel like, is not one of the better junglers that I can think of. I mean, his ultimate definitely has a place in team fights, but I think could use a little bit of help there. And same thing with Poseidon. I mean, I don't see Poseidon getting selected from a competitive standpoint for laning mid anymore. We did see an influx for Poseidon quite some time ago. Now, a lot of people are seeing your Agnes, your Hells, stuff like that, but your Alkongs. But right now, I think Poseidon could use a little love as well. So that is my answer. What about Legolas King? Who do you think could use some little help here?
Honestly, I think they need to fix Kronos a bit. Just because he's not really a good mid laner.
No, I can agree. I mean, Kronos, a lot of people have questioned Kronos, his kit, kind of wondering, a lot of people will ban Kronos because there's not really sure where to put him, where to stack him, so they ban him to be safe. So I can see that. You have any other questions for us today?
Yeah, with the recent changes to Shock, is there anything you would add or subtract to him to make him more balanced?
Sure. What do you got?
I'm gonna jump on this. I'm gonna jump on this right now. Shock does not need to be damage immune while he is ulting. There is no reason for Shock to be damage immune while he is ulting. No reason at all. First time I realized that, I was like, whoa, is this a bug? I was like, holy crap, this is intentional. Why? Just, I don't get it. I don't get it. I think he would be pretty perfectly balanced if you could still hurt him while he's sitting there flying and he couldn't avoid ultimates by just jumping up in the air and ulting.
Sure. Sure. No, I think that's a good point. If you asked me like a week ago, I would have complained about Chalk's first ability with the toss of his axe there, but they did go ahead and make adjustments to that, cutting down on the radius of that, which I'm very, very happy with, because that was one thing that really frustrated me about him. Right now, I can't say too much about Chalk other than that axe change with the toss, but that has been adjusted, so I'm happy with that. Any other questions you got for us today?
Yeah, just one more. What do you guys think of like Fenrir and those like easier gods to play as?
So you're asking what gods do we feel are the easiest to play?
Yeah, the current moment.
Okay. What do you got, Squiiddish?
Well, there's a couple that are incredibly straightforward. I mean, Fenrir's really easy. Freya's really easy. Those are probably the two that come immediately to mind. Those are just the straightforward hit head on keyboard, receive kills gods. But
yep.
As far as they go with that, I mean, I say those two because there's gods that are pretty easy to play. Like Tyr's pretty easy, but Tyr has a lot of potential with his kit. He has a lot of stuff he can do. He can make some serious plays. I mean, I don't even feel like there's room to make mind-blowing plays with Freya and Fenrir. I mean, making plays with Freya is walking up and going, zzz, zzz, you're dead, I made a play. Like, there's not even room in their kits to do cool things. They're just straightforward, hit your buttons, kill dudes. But that's not really not necessarily a bad thing, because, I mean, they're balanced around that. You know exactly what a Freya or a Fenrir is capable of doing. You know exactly what they're able to do, because they really only do one thing. And it's really easy, at least at high level, to play around that because they're such straightforward gods. And there's no risk of this dude's going to pull some crazy crap and outplay me because you know exactly what he's going to do. They're really simple.
Yeah, I think I'll take the other side of that, just kind of spinning that question a little bit as to like what gods I feel are super easy for new players and the ones that I recommend for players is I always recommend Ymir and Ra. I feel like they're real easy to pick up. They're very basic, the way their abilities work. There's nothing tricky about the gods at all. And so, when I think of easy gods for new players, those are kind of the gods I go ahead and turn to, is Ra and also Ymir. Well, Legolas King, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight, and I hope you call back in the future. Take care, man.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Alrighty, so let's get another question from chat. A little more on the competitive side. Squiiddish, what predictions do you have? What 3 teams do you think will be at the 100K tournament coming up in March?
Making me pick favorites. Making me pick favorites right now. Well,
that's right.
I'm going to have to say, currently, the 3 teams between NA and EU that just right now look the best are the ones that just got new names. Cloud9, TSM, and COG-NA are the 3 best looking teams right now. They're the 3 that are consistently on top, consistently have their stuff together, and just put on a great showing every single week. And right now, at this exact moment, I think those are the 3 most likely. That's not to say the other teams don't have the potential to be there. That teams like Dignitas can't rise back up and just go back to planet smashing. Sure. But as it stands, I'd have to pick Cloud9, TSM, and COG-NA.
Yeah. I definitely have to agree. If you were to go back like a few months ago, Team Dignitas would have been in the top 3, but in all honesty, like I have not seen the performance from Team Dignitas as I have from Cognitive, TSM, and Cloud9 at all. I mean, those teams have done significantly well. We saw Team Dignitas kind of having no problem in the past and just playing phenomenally in the past, but unfortunately, some new big dogs have come into the scene and are doing very, very well. So, yeah, top 3 definitely reflect exactly what you said there. Let's go ahead and bring in another caller, Ringmaster. Let's go ahead and bring him in. And Ringmaster, welcome to Smite Talk. What questions do you have for us tonight? We'll see if he's there. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. What questions do you have?
I'm a little nervous, so...
No, it's okay. Take your time.
Let's see. What do you think about the gank potential from the jungle gods, like such as Thor, that I've seen a lot of picked in the tournament today?
So I'll throw it over to Squiiddish. What are your thoughts on a lot of these jungle gods and the gank potential?
So as far as just like whether I think it's balanced or like how it fits in right now. Thor, since you mentioned him, I'll go with Thor specifically. That's really his big strength. I mean, if he didn't have the ability to ult and show up from literally nowhere with no real announcement, unless you have got incredibly good word coverage, he wouldn't be nearly as good. That's just kind of what makes him so amazing. That ult is teamfight changing. That ability for his to show up and not just show up, but show up with a nuke and an AoE stun is huge. What do I think about it? I think it's awesome. I like it there's gods like that, because I mean, you can say the same thing about Loki, stealthing in and just destroying someone, stealthing through wards. They don't even know he's there. It's just part of what makes gods unique. Like, I like that the gods like Thor and Loki can do that, and gods like Freya, jungling hypothetically, just kind of walk into lane and dead. I mean, it's just, it's more dynamic. It's more skill cap, it's more options, it's more ways you can play, and that's always good.
Yeah, I mean, Thor was played very well today during the EU game with TSM versus Cloud9. Definitely showed. I mean, I watch it and I'm like, really, that rotation is amazing, and just the way that the team rotated very well. I mean, those are the types of games which, as gamers, need to look at and go, wow, like, look at the potential out of that god and the gank ability. I mean, we just saw him play so well. So, no, it's a very good point. Do you have any other questions for us today?
Yes. What do you think about Kali's ult?
Sure.
And her
I'll throw it
passive.
over to Squiiddish first. Yep.
I think it's way fun. I like the plays you can pull with Kali right now between her passive heal and her ultimate are amazing. The potential for you to go in, just ultra tower dive somebody with basically no hope, and at the last second pop your ultimate, kill them, heal for basically all of your health, and just get out. Like, it's almost like playing a different game, jungling Kali. It's like you can just go total hitman on whoever your target is, and it's awesome. I love everything about Kali's kit right now.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about Kali's ultimate is I'll see her get down so low, and I'm like so excited. I'm like, yes, I'm going to drop her. Awesome. And then as soon as her ultimate finishes, she has like that almost full health, and I'm like, really? Really? So it gets me really fired up. But when I play Kali, it's a ton of fun, and as you talked about, some of the plays that you can make with Kali are you can't make with anyone else in the game. So she is a lot of fun to play. I agree.
Yeah.
What other questions you got for us?
Well, can I just go back on the Kali thing? I think her ultimate is kind of overpowered of how she gets invincibility, and then if she, like on the Mark of Destruction, her passive, if she kills somebody with her ultimate, she just goes back to full health and you can just keep on fighting. She could probably get a pentakill solo if she kills all of them that her passive is on. And the plays that you can make with Kali is crazy.
So what would you change about her?
I would say give her less, maybe give her less like invulnerability time on her ultimate.
Okay.
I think that needs to get toned down a bit because I think she has way too much time to react to everything.
Yeah. One thing a lot of people don't realize is with Kali's passive, when she's in her ultimate, you can counterplay it just like you could Ra or Aphrodite. Like, you can go in, and when she kills her target, she heals, but it's just that, a heal. So if she's going in, popping her ultimate to dive someone, you're like, oh, that's probably her target. If you bring in, like, a Weakening Curse or a Beat Stick or a Divine Ruin, Weakening Curse is best. She's still going to get slowed because she's not CCing in her ult anymore, and she's not going to heal from her passive kill. So as soon as her ult's over, she's just like, welp. I had a good run. And she's going to instantly die at 1 health. So you can totally shut her down with Weakening Curse and her ult, because she's guaranteed to die. Because it lasts longer than her ult does if you pop it like even if you just pop it halfway through her ultimate, just wait a second. It's going to outlast her ult. She's not going to be able to heal, and she's guaranteed dead when it's over.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, very good. What other questions you got for us?
What role do you think is one of the probably the most important role in the game right now?
Sure. I'll throw it to Squiiddish first, and I'll take a second.
Up.
Yep.
Overall, well, seeing Smite's not a super snowbally MOBA. It's definitely not. It's on the lower end of snowball. But that said, early momentum and early advantage is huge. And early game, it's really the mid and the jungler are the two roles to watch. They're the ones that are going to be making the plays and picking up the kills for the first couple minutes of the game. They're the ones that kind of set the pace. And between those two specifically, it's usually the jungler.
Jungler.
Because not only can he make plays on mid, he can make plays on anyone that gets overextended in duo and solo. He can help out any lane that's getting behind early on. Just his ability to roam and influence the whole map, I think, makes it the most critical role overall.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, jungle is probably the best one because it can change like how lanes are doing. Like he can, if the duo lane's losing, he can just come over and gank and shut the enemy ADC down, and duo is good again.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing for me. It'd definitely be the jungler as well. It sets the pace of the game without a doubt. If you have a very strong jungler, it sets the entire pace, allows for the other lanes to be a little bit more aggressive. Whereas if you have a jungler which is failing, unfortunately, one, they're down in level. Two, you're not getting the ganks off in the lanes as much, so your other teammates cannot be as aggressive, and they have to play more defensively. So it ends up affecting the game negatively. So to me, it'd definitely be jungler, and I'd have to agree with Squiiddish after that. Would have to be mid lane because of the way that the mid laner can rotate left and right depending on how well they're playing. So,
yeah.
All right, well, Ringmaster, thank you very much for coming on the show. Do appreciate it, and hopefully you call in next time.
No problem.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and take a few last questions here, guys, and then we'll be heading out for today. Question here is there any god in the game, Squiiddish, that you feel just doesn't fit into Smite?
Well, if you'd asked me this 2 weeks ago, or on release even, I would have been inclined to say Nuwa. Because her kit, it's unique, it's interesting, but it's just awkward. It's just so awkward for fitting into how Smite works. But I think she's relatively able to hold her own the laning phase. I'd have to say Aphrodite. Just because what Aphrodite does, in a nutshell, is support one person. So the obvious role that she would be good with is a dual lane support. But in Smite's, at least current meta, you're sacrificing your initiation, your tank, your everything to put Aphrodite in the support lane, because Smite tanks can't do anything else very well. So she just doesn't really have a home. I mean, you can put her in solo or mid. She can wave clear fine with doves. That's cool. But she can't even put half her kit to use until later in the game. I mean, it's just like she's half of a god for the first half of the game. I just think she doesn't really fit, at least into the current meta. Maybe not Smite as a whole, but just how it's played right now.
Sure. No, very, very good answer. Another question here from the community was, what is it like meeting people from Smite game, the Smite community, and play and converse with them in-game? What do you think about getting Smite more popular? Well, there's a whole bunch of questions there, so we'll just go with the first one. What is it like, kind of meeting people from Smite game, the Smite community, and playing with them in-game?
It's awesome. I love it. I love getting to play with people that I've been watching on YouTube or Twitch, especially when I was first starting out. These people I'd been watching, like I said, I saw Steve Schwint first. But I mean, I'd seen Drybear's videos, and I'd seen other people's videos. I'd seen Smite game streams and stuff before I'd ever gotten on. So I mean, when I was first starting out, the first time I got to play on stream with Drybear, I had my own little fangirl moment. It was exciting because he was just this big famous Smite guy, and I got to play with him. It's definitely awesome. I love getting to play with all these people that I've watched, I've seen their content, and I already like. And not only getting to play with them, but getting to learn from them, like how they do things, not only just in Smite, but in just like the content creation scene as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's kind of funny, like there is, like when I brought Squiiddish on for the first time tonight, like there is no awkward moment. Like we're both community members. We've never talked before, except for like a chat back and forth about getting on the show. Yet there's definitely a comfort level, and I think it just comes with the Smite community and with some of the content kind of producers. Would you agree, Squiiddish?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's the Smite community has all of the greatness that the old Assassin's Creed community used to have. What I loved about that is that it wasn't enormous. Like, all the content creators pretty much get along. Like, I can't really think of any big Smite name that doesn't like other big Smite names of not touching the pro scene. We're not talking about the pro scene. We're talking about content creation. And just, it really is a great community. As much as people complain about it, it really is a great community.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on from here, somebody in chat had asked kind of the roundtable episode that I've done before. I used to do if those of you guys aren't familiar, I used to do a roundtable discussion episode where I'd invite a bunch of people on in the community to discuss certain topics. I am looking at doing an episode kind of called The Females of Smite. I do need to get that rearranged, which will be a handful of females in the community that are content creators, streamers, professional players, stuff like that, and do an episode just kind of on that. Between Smite Talk podcast and the Smite Update podcast that I do every week on Sundays, I definitely have a lot of shows, so there's definitely thoughts on it, but just trying to fit all of that in 1 week, along with working a full-time job, can be hard. But don't worry, definitely thinking about doing it in the future. Let's go ahead and bring on Melbs from Raid Call. So, Melbs, welcome to Smite Talk. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Good, good. So, what do you want to talk about today?
I really came up with this. I only have 2 questions. I came up with one of them a little bit ago with the last guy who was on.
Okay.
He asked, who do you think is like the most overpowered god at the moment?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But my question is, who do you think is the most balanced god? Like, who is exactly perfect the way they are?
Ooh. Well, back in the day, I have to think about it right now, so I'm going to think while I'm saying this. But I used to say, like, a couple months ago, before all of the recent changes, that Artemis was the pinnacle of balance. And I thought everything should be balanced around Artemis because she was in a perfect spot. She was exactly what she should be. She's a carry that can put out a lot of damage, has a little CC on her ultimate, basically, and doesn't have any escapes. That's balance. There's pros and cons, and this is before she had a speed boost added to her too. So this is way back when. Right now, the most balanced, honestly, I'm gonna go back to Ra. Ra's in a pretty good spot. Ra does his job so well. He pushes lanes. He's kind of a supportive mage. He's got burst on his ultimate, but he has the big downsides of not really having any escape. He can try to kind of heal himself through problems that he has a little bit. His speed from his passive, so he can kind of get away, but it's easy to lock down and kill. He's got upsides, he's got downsides. He's in a pretty good spot. I think Ra is the ultimate balance right now. Everything's been balanced around Blazer Chicken.
Yeah, I think for me, outside of Ra, I think Ra's a very good choice. Mine would be thrown over to Anhur. I think Anhur is definitely a more balanced god. He's a very good ADC, without a doubt. And we haven't really seen a ton of changes done to him. I think the last one was to his ultimate, but I'm really happy with Anhur as well, and I do enjoy Anhur. I play Anhur quite a bit. What other questions do you have for us?
You know how they recently announced the new Pantheons that are going to come out when the game releases?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard from a buddy that they announced that like 7 new Pantheons were going to come out after the game releases.
Sure.
I haven't heard this.
Oh. Well, okay, but since you haven't heard of it, if they release new Pantheons, what would you want most from them?
Okay. So what are we hoping for from the gods that are released directly after the launch? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
This is like the entirely new Pantheons?
Yeah.
All right, toot bandwagon train Japanese Pantheon. Let's go. I want it. I'm going to jump on that with everybody else. A Japanese Pantheon would be an awesome addition. They have so many cool gods that can fit into Smite.
Amaterasu.
That Raiden. Need more lightning gods.
All right. Well, you got any more questions for us today?
Do you guys think they should bring back the Manticore?
Yes, but I don't see any harm in it, right? What else you got?
I'm sure. I wasn't around for the Manticore. I never saw the Manticore.
Oh,
the Manticore is older than me.
It's older than you, right? Right? Yeah.
Well, and that's all I got, so.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I do appreciate you taking some time out of your night.
Anytime.
All right, we're going to bring on, we'll take one more question from Ask.fm, bring on one last caller, and then we'll go ahead and close out the show. So I'm taking a look at the last few here. What are your thoughts on them adding in a collegiate-based season play, kind of like what they have with the CSL for other games like League of Legends and StarCraft 2, focusing more on the college players? What are your thoughts?
I am never down for or never against. I almost said that completely backwards. I'm never against expanding Smite's esports side. Like anything they add in like that is going to be awesome. There's virtually no downside to this. It's just more exposure, more people who can get in and play, more people who can participate, more tournaments for the esports scene. Sounds great to me.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on that specifically is I think it'll come about as the scene grows. I don't think Hi-Rez needs to put that together. They are the producers of the show. They don't need to be also, hosting all these different tournaments. Why are we not seeing, to me, my biggest gripe is I feel like the community doesn't do enough in developing these tournaments. I mean, yeah, we see Tier Monster putting together some tournaments. We see Denial, Smite Tube, which is great, but, let's see some other tournament organizations start to jump on it. Why does Hi-Rez have to do it? I think a lot of people sit around, hoping they're going to do it, but you got to remember that's money coming directly from Hi-Rez when they're putting out the prize pool. Let's see some tournament organizations spawn up with their own sponsors. I mean, that's the only way the scene's going to grow. I mean, if you keep having the producer of the game throwing money back into the game for prize pools, how's that producer going to continue being profitable if they keep throwing money back into it like that? So I would rather, as time goes on, I think that we're going to start to see, the population grow. The game become more popular after it releases, and more tournament leagues start to spawn up. I hope that we do see some more of the CSL, because I think it's a really, really very good league and a very popular league as well. Let's go ahead and bring on our last caller. We have Glorious Toast. Glorious Toast, welcome to Smite Talk. How's it going?
Fine. It's just sort of right now disorienting with the stream lag.
Sure. Make sure you mute the stream. And what is your first question for us?
Okay. Okay. So there is currently a scene for Conquest game mode. Do you suppose there would be one for Arena and other modes, like for a lesser chance, the Salt game mode?
Sure. I'll throw that over to Squiiddish.
Well, being straightforward, I don't think anything other than Conquest is going to ever have a major competitive scene.
Okay.
I'm honestly surprised they added in leagues for Arena and Joust 1v1. The game, I mean, being a MOBA, Smite is Conquest. Smite is balanced around Conquest. Smite is built around Conquest. Arena, Domination, Joust, Mode of the Day, Assault, those are all there as kind of fun modes. I mean, people take Arena seriously. You can play competitive Arena, but the game's just not balanced around Arena. I mean, you can't nerf and buff gods based on Arena, and it's a very different game than Conquest is. So what they could do, I'm going back to League of Legends again. Even League of Legends, like, they have Twisted Treeline and Dominion or whatever their other one's called that nobody plays. And they have buffs that apply only in those game modes. Like, there's champions that are stronger or weaker in those game modes. So they have a separate balance tree for everything that's not the regular MOBA experience, and there's still not a competitive scene for them. So it's just the fact that everything's focused on Conquest. I don't think anything else is really going to have a major role.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the hard thing. I mean, I specifically come from the RTS scene, like with StarCraft 2, and that was always an argument where, can the 2 vs 2, 3 vs 3, 4 vs 4 scene, where it's just more of a casual play, be ever considered a competitive type of game mode for that? And it was very hard to discuss that because the game is specifically balanced strictly around 1 vs 1. And so all of a sudden you start adding in 2 vs 2, it makes it super difficult because now all of a sudden you have to consider a lot of that. So I don't know how much of that will, I mean, I know there's been, Tier Monster's done a very good job at turning up some tournaments to, I would consider them more casual tournaments, but I don't know how much of a competitive scene will follow. Possibly, if so, great. I mean, Squiiddish and I are not saying we don't want to see it. We'd love to see it, but we just don't know how much of that will actually come about. What other questions do you have for us?
Do you have any possibility of a joke skins? Like, for example, Fenrir would have like a dog skin, or Raw would be a chicken head.
So many. I want, and somebody said this in chat earlier, and I'm going to steal your idea because it was beautiful, and I don't remember your name. I want a skin for Fenrir where he is literally a 3. He is just a walking number 3, possibly with legs. Doesn't even necessarily need legs. Legs and like little stick arms, and he's just a walking 3. Walks around the map. Please, based gods, make it happen.
Yeah, no, I think that would be rather entertaining. I like it. I was like, where is he going with this Fenrir comment? But that definitely makes sense without a doubt. So any other questions you got for us?
Just one last one.
Sure.
Does Anubis or any god deserve its very hard skill level?
Deserve a very hard skill level? Do you think the skill level is proportioned to how like strong they are? Is that kind of like what you're asking?
No, it's just like each god has their own skill level, like very hard, easy, average, and I think there might be just aesthetic appeal right there. But do you think any gods really deserve of that part of the thing?
Okay. So go ahead, Squiiddish.
I definitely don't think most of the guys that have it should really have it. I mean, even knowing it's geared toward new players. I mean, even for a new player, Anubis I would put in like easy. It's just hit your buttons at people. Gods definitely should be there. They have Thanatos in very hard. Thanatos definitely deserves to be in very hard because just the way his kit synergizes and the way he has to roll to get kills, especially for a new player, definitely deserving of the very hard. Also current Vulcan. Because I feel like a new player loading up into Vulcan is going to expect their turret to take more than someone sneezing on it to kill it. And just the way his, same thing, the way his kit works, the way he works, the massive delay on his main damaging abilities, his 3 and his ult. And the fact he knocks himself back with his 1, like everything about Vulcan is hard to get used to, especially for a new player. So Vulcan and Thanatos definitely should have the very hard tag.
Yeah, no, I could agree with you. I think Vulcan with some of the latest changes might be a little, I don't know about hard tag for him with that. I mean, I agree with you with the Thanatos there. I think those are kind of geared towards players because of the sheer fact of, wanting making sure that players, understand that. So as a new player, when you come on, you don't go ahead and select those gods and then get frustrated and not interested in the game. So, I do like the title, though, of labeling them as hard. Any other questions you got for us?
Okay, just this last one for sure.
Sure, go for it.
Which way would Assault should go towards? Fully random, or every team need to have a support that can like heal and support actually?
So what do you got, Squiiddish?
Well, I don't think healers are as big of a deal in Assault as people make them out to be. If you let them, like if you go against a healer team and you go up, have a little skirmish, back off, let them heal up, have a little skirmish, let them heal up, you lose. You're doing it wrong. You just need to all in them. I mean, it seems, I haven't noticed, I don't play a ton of Assault, but I play it occasionally, usually once or twice when I get on Smite.
Yeah. I
haven't noticed any major advantage to having a healer on the team, like makes them win more often. It still seems like it's totally just 50-50 or up to something else about the team comp rather than just the healer. I like where it's at right now, where it balances out mages, assassins, tanks, etc. I don't think they need to do anything specific about healers.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very good point. Glorious Toast, anything else for today?
No, thanks for answering my questions.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good night. Well, guys, I mean, we could have went on all night long, honestly, with questions that we had from Ask.fm and from callers calling in, but we don't want to take up too much of Squiddish's time here. I want to remind you guys that this version will be available on iTunes tomorrow. You can check out the audio version on iTunes. The video version is on youtube.com/thesmiteupdate. So you guys can definitely find it on there if you guys are interested. A lot of people check it out on the way to work, at the gym, while they're at work, so make sure you check it out. We did more recently have a 5-star review, and I encourage you guys to leave a 5-star review as well from a guy named Sendo Ping. So thank you very much for leaving a 5-star review on iTunes. Do definitely appreciate it. If you guys have any additional questions, comments, or feedback about the show, please email it over to smitetalk@gmail.com. Special thanks to Hi-Rez for allowing Smite Talk to air live on Smite Game every Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern. If you guys are checking out the iTunes version or YouTube, you can check out the live show on twitch.tv/SmiteGame every Sunday at 7. And Squiiddish, where can people check you out if they want to check out more of your content?
Well, main place is you can find me over at twitch.tv/Squiiddish. Most weekdays I'm going to be streaming about 4 p.m. EST till whenever I feel like it. It's generally Smite, but sometimes I stream some other stuff like Dark Souls with Submitten, which is equally hilarious, Risk of Rain, some other stuff, usually Smite though. Or youtube.com/Squiiddish Returns, if I'm not online, is the giant archive of Squiiddish video goodness that will probably sate you for quite a while.
Awesome. Guys, if you guys are interested, I'll be doing viewer games right after this show tonight. So if you guys want to stay tuned, we'll be doing viewer games with the community. Once again, guys, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Smite Talk Podcast, where we're actually going to have on who will be joining us, who is an upcoming community caster. We did have the pleasure of seeing him this past weekend, casting the tournament yesterday, and we will actually go ahead and see him next week. So please make sure you guys hang out for that, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes. Take care. Thank you very much to Squiiddish for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.
No, thank you for having me.